I'm excited to be here with you, Steve, today. The mindset adjuster.
Yep.
You are a motivational speaker, an inspirational speaker, I'm going to say a retired comedian. Well, can we say that? Yeah. I mean, you're not retired, though, because you're still really funny.
I've been a comedian since I was 2 years old.
Yeah. So. Since you were born.
And I knew I was going to be a comedian because my father would look at my report card and go, "What are you, a comedian?"
Then you're like...
I kind of wore off.
So he manifested that for you, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of humor in my presentation.
Exactly. You talk really about using humor in adjusting your mindset, right? Yes. In all of your talks. And you talk for some of the largest companies in the world, Fortune 500 companies. And
100 companies,
amazing stuff. Back in your comedy days, you've opened up and shared marquees with some of the most well-known celebrities, comedians. Let's name drop a couple here, Steve.
The thing is that my opening acts, this is going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
When I was doing stand-up, now this is before they were famous.
Okay.
Chris Rock opened for me.
Wait. Chris Rock opened for you. Me.
Sam Kinison opened for me. Rosie O'Donnell opened for me. Mm-hmm. Drew Carey, who was my roommate in Hollywood, opened for me. I shared the marquee with Rodney Dangerfield, Eddie Murphy, Jerry Seinfeld, Ellen DeGeneres, Kevin James. And I knew a lot of these people very well. I guess at some point in the interview, I'll let you know why I made the shift from comedy to speaking. It was a lot of people said to me, "Why are you quitting?" And I'm like, "I'm not quitting.
Is it quitting?
I'm shifting directions." It was a calling. It was a gradual. I didn't wake up one morning and say, "Wow, I'm going to change." It just certain stuff was happening inside of me, and it wasn't an easy decision at all.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But these people opened up for me, and every now and then when I'm watching TV or a movie or something and I see these guys and I'm like, sometimes I go, what would have happened if I would have stayed?
I can imagine that's a question you think about.
I made the right decision because when people come up to you when you're doing stand-up and say, "I needed to laugh, man. Thank you so much." But now when they come up to me, or I'll get an email or somebody will write a handwritten letter, send it to my agency or something, and they'll say, he was a spark that ignited change in my life. And the laughter was nonstop. And I love the combination of the two. A lot of my clients will say, and I'm paraphrasing, but in one way or another, never has my group laughed so much and learned so much in one sitting.
I love that.
How can you do that? How could you make them laugh their asses off?
Right.
Just nonstop. And then all of a sudden you're hitting them with something where people are just wiping tears away. It's what I do.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't regret it. Leaving stand-up. It's a combination of two.
We're going to talk about your book, Conversations with Bob, today, but let's go back to that decision when you did decide to leave comedy. Because I can imagine, I'm blown away by the amount of people that have opened for you. I feel like I'm sitting in the presence of a legend right now, to be honest. Like you have done so many amazing things in your career. What makes you walk away from something like that?
All right. So I'm going to go back a little bit.
Okay.
I was voted least likely to succeed in my senior class in high school. I was told by a guidance counselor when I was 14 years old in front of my mom and dad. He looked at my mom and dad and said, "Let's just say Steve doesn't have what it takes to go to college." Not realizing it. Making a very long story short, it was that type of negative labeling that molded the direction for a very good part of my early life. And my philosophy was, don't try and you can't fail.
Yeah.
And if you did try and it didn't work, don't make a fool out of yourself. Settle. Just keep settling. By the way, I did go to college. It wasn't easy, but I graduated with high honors. 7 years after high school, I went back to the same school that I graduated from, and I was a counselor for kids with behavioral problems.
Wow.
Proving once and for all that guidance counselors aren't fortune tellers.
Right. Exactly.
Something weird happened. I guess because I went to college and I did well, I started doing stand-up comedy at night in the clubs around Long Island and in the city.
Okay.
And I was getting really good, really fast. I quit the school system, started to do stand-up full-time. And I immediately started headlining. This was in the early 80s. You see, comedy clubs are open up everywhere.
Right.
Lauren, everywhere in the country. And I was getting booked. I didn't even have a full routine yet, but, you're on stage, you learn it, you just do it. I was doing very well. And this is when Chris Rock was opening up for me at some of the clubs, and I toured with Sam Kinison. He was my opening act. And then I'm wondering, as years and years are going by, why am I opening acts getting the big breaks, and how come opportunity isn't knocking on my door? And then I realized I was afraid to open the door.
Yeah.
Those negative labels, those toxic beliefs were still there, and they're always there. But I was letting them dominate me. So I had a fear of success and failure. Every time my management team, I had the best management team, I had the best agents, I had great PR. Every time they kept saying, Steve, you got to go. We got something for you. It's an audition for a sitcom at the Improv in California. I would make an excuse. And I actually believed the excuse. My excuse was, I can't. I already have a contract. I'm supposed to be in Omaha, Nebraska, then Des Moines, Iowa. And they would yell at me, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing this. We're setting you up. We'll get someone to cover you for the clubs. And then finally they said, what are you afraid of? And I'm not afraid of anything. I hung up and it hit me out. I realized I was.
Yeah.
So I went on a quest to better myself. I mean, I went to spiritual seminars, motivational seminars, Tony Robbins seminars, fell asleep with headphones. This took years. And my belief system was second to none. And ironically, the entertainment industry was really interested in me then. But because I learned this mind shift, this transformation that took place, I was so hooked on that. And it was at a Tony Robbins seminar. As a matter of fact, he wrote a testimonial for my first book, Becoming a Human Being. And I remember watching him. There were like 3,000 people in the audience. And I unknowingly picked up a pen and I wrote it on a piece of paper. I can do this. Put the pen down. A little while later, I picked it up and I wrote, I should do this. And then I picked up the pen and I went, damn it, I'm doing this. I have this in a frame on my office. And I told Tony, you just transformed my life. As a matter of fact, as I said, I was rooming with Drew Carey. I had an audition and I did very well. It was my third callback. And he said, what do you want to do for dinner? Because my home was on Long Island. I was living in LA for 6 months for what they call pilot season. Right. And they said, Drew, you do what you want. I'm going home. I'm not doing this anymore. I was very emotional. I was married at the time. I called my wife. I said, I'm coming home. And she knew. She said, I'll be here for you. I was bundle. How could you leave something that you were doing for over 20 years, close to 25 years? Yeah. Headlining, doing some TV stuff, had a Showtime special. Woody Harrelson nominated me as a Showtime Comedy All-Star. And now I'm leaving. But I knew in my heart that's what I had to do. And I'm a firm believer in following your heart. When you do, and if you could harness that fear and keep it at bay, serendipitous events come your way. So I kept saying, how can I leave a business that I dedicated 25 of my years, good years at, and I was considered one of the best, and get into something that I know nothing about? Nothing. No connections. Nothing. But yet I knew. I was even formatting what I was going to say and how I was going to do it. So I said a prayer before I left, and I gave Drew a big hug, and this was a week after I told him and told my wife that I'm coming home. I went to LAX on my way to JFK, and I said a prayer in my room in Hollywood. I said, I'm making the move now. This is it. You know what I want to do. I don't know who to go to help me. Give me a sign. Send someone or something my way to let me know I'm on the right path. I get on a flight. I'm sitting in first class, and I'm sitting next to this very distinguished-looking man, heavy-set man, perfectly trimmed beard, white hair, three-piece suit. And he's looking at me, and I'm saying, please, God, don't let him talk to me. I don't want to talk to anyone. I am too emotional. I just don't do it. And then he looks at me, he goes, excuse me. And I'm saying to myself, I said, yeah. And he goes, you just look familiar. I think I saw you on TV. And he saw me on my Showtime special that was aired a few months before that. I said, you probably saw me on show. Oh, yeah. He goes, Steve Rizzo, oh, man, you are so funny. He's going on. And I'm talking to him, and I got very quiet again, and about 20 minutes go by, and he goes, I'm sorry to bother you again. He goes, but I'm really perceptive. He goes, is everything okay with you? I could just sense. I said, well, it's very perceptive of you. I said, I have a big problem. And he said, what? I said, I want to do something else with my life. And this other thing that I want to do. I have no idea how to do it, but I know I'm supposed to do it. And I said, as a matter of fact, I said a prayer. Mm-hmm. Send me someone or something that can guide me to do what I want. And he looks at me and goes, my God, what is it that you want to do? I said, I want to become what you would call a motivational or inspirational speaker. And all of a sudden, he starts laughing his ass off. I mean, laughing, knee slapping, hitting me on the shoulder like that, and I'm going like this, right? So I'm looking at him and said, I'm thinking he's laughing at me.
Right, like that's a stupid idea, yeah.
You just had a Showtime special. You're telling me who your opening acts are.
Right.
Well, then they weren't famous, but I told them what I was doing and everything. And I said, why are you laughing? He goes, I'm the answer to your prayer.
Wow.
He goes, I'm the president of the New York chapter of the National Speakers Association.
No freaking way.
But here's the real synchronicity. He said, I'm going to make sure you get to where you want to go.
Wow.
He invited me the next weekend as things turned out. How ironic is that? The next weekend, the National Speakers Association was having one of their big workshops. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's like 800 people go there. It was at the Omni Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little nervous, but he made sure. It was almost like he had my hand, and I felt that.
Yep.
And I went out to breakfast, lunch, dinner, and he introduced me to all the heavy hitters.
Wow.
The heavy speakers, the agencies, the board of the National Speakers Association, the president of High Point University, Nito Cobain, and all these people. 85% of these people already knew who I was. They either saw me at their comedy club, theater, or on my Showtime special.
Wow.
So I was already a semi-celebrity.
Right.
Okay, so I get home after the event. My answering machine is going off the charts. The one message was, this is Vanna Novak from the board of the National Speakers Association. Everyone was so impressed with you. We'd like to know if you'd like to come to the convention 6 months from now and speak to about 200 of the top speakers in the country on how to add humor in their presentation. And I said, absolutely. I didn't know how. I had 6 months to prepare. Oh, I do that all the time.
I know how to do that just fine.
I did it. I nailed it. And this is before social media or anything like that. And the only way you can get a contact is people they were giving me business cards. I was getting booked to speak, Lauren. I didn't even have a presentation prepared.
Wow.
I just had ideas. But it all came together.
Mm-hmm.
That's serendipity. That's synchronicity.
That's amazing.
I say this because who's ever listening and watching this, follow your heart. You can't go wrong. Yeah, it's not saying you won't be confronted with challenges, but when you can look in the mirror and leave something that you're really good at, and that was the tough part. If I wasn't good at it, it would have been so much easier.
Yep.
Oh, this sucks, and I tried it, okay, but I was good.
Yep.
I mean, I was really good at I love what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But this other thing, I felt this calling that I have something that can give people a whole package. Mm-hmm. I can make them enjoy what it is that I'm giving them and get them to a better place in their lives personally and professionally. And another thing that hit me, because I was still doing stand-up to make money at that time, but only I was booking myself. I didn't have an agent. My manager sued me, tried to.
Oh, wow.
So when I was on stage, this was another thing that hit me, which was a weird thing. I'm doing stand-up for like 600, 1,000 people, and I'm in the zone. They're laughing, and I'm pursuing my speaking career at that time, and something clicked, and I'm like, look at all these people here. This is weird because I'm doing it. I'm in the zone, but yet a part of me is talking to me.
Right.
Okay? It's like there's another me next to me.
Right.
There were times in my life when I really thought I was losing it. So.
I think we all feel like that.
Because you're looking at me now going, he is losing. So, but I could tell by the look in your face, you're digging what I'm doing.
No, I can relate, and I'm going to share with you in a minute. I can relate to a lot of what you're talking about.
Would love to hear that.
Yep.
Yeah. So everyone knows that I'm not the only crazy one. So I'm making them laugh, and then there's other part of me saying, wow, there are some people in this audience right now, guaranteed, that are going through some tough times.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they're having financial difficulties. Maybe they're a loved one inflicted with some kind of illness. But for that hour and a half when I'm on stage, their problems, their challenges, whatever they were, didn't own them because they simply allowed themselves to take time out to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I coined my phrase, they're becoming humor beings.
Mm-hmm.
That was the title of my first book, Becoming a Humor Being. That was just that extra oomph that I add because one of the biggest things is the power of laughter. Always unleash the power of your humor being. When I speak to my corporate clients, Fortune 100 companies, major change to two things. Make a conscious choice every day to enjoy yourself during the process. Don't wait for the goal to be achieved. Don't put your happiness on hold because that's so indicative of high achievers in the Fortune 100 companies. They create a mindset. I'll be happy when I get to where I want to go. Right now, I have too many things that need to be done. When they're done, that's when I'm going to enjoy myself.
Right.
No.
Yep.
No. So I teach them that, how important it is, and stress the importance of finding the laughter while you're embracing this change, in between the change and during it. It's crucial.
I love it. I love it. And I love the ability to laugh at yourself, too, is such a gift, to be able to do that. My background before, owning a book PR agency and being a book coach and having this podcast and doing all of this, helping authors, was in personal finance. And I was a personal finance TV personality. So I did all the national TV shows, Today Show, Good Morning America,
Really?
Rachel Ray, Dr. Oz,
That's great.
Fox, all of them. I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA. I've done spokesperson jobs and TV commercials, all based on personal finance. And I was very well known in that field, but I didn't enjoy it anymore. I didn't like it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I was bored. It wasn't who I was anymore. I had evolved into something else. And I always wanted to move into this field because I felt like I had written 3 books. I had used and done so well in my career. I had really nailed the strategy portion of becoming a bestseller and using media and all of that. I saw my friends who were in entrepreneurism struggling with that, right, all the time. And I was like, this is what I want to do. But that meant giving up the old brand. That meant quitting the TV, which I loved more than anything.
Wow.
I loved going on TV. That meant quitting it all and walking away.
You were consumed with that fear,
I was
too?
consumed with that same exact fear. And I remember the last show that I quit was Rachel Ray. I didn't want to because I absolutely adored her. I loved her staff. I got paid to go on it. It was my absolute favorite thing to do, was to come to the city and to go on her show. And I was thinking to myself, like, who would give this up? Like, they have a regular paid spot on Rachel Ray. I sell books when I go on it. I get to do what I love. My friends are the producers. Why would I give this up?
And were people telling you were crazy?
Yeah, you're crazy. Why would you give
that
that up? And I said to myself, I'm just not happy. I just don't want to do it anymore. And I remember I called my friend who's the executive producer there, or she was a senior producer, and I said, listen, I just want to let you know that I'm stepping down and I'm not going to be coming on the show anymore. I'm not going to be doing television anymore. I'm stepping away. I'm opening this other company. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I got off the phone and I cried. I bawled my eyes out. And I'm like, should I call her back? Maybe that was a mistake. I don't want to do this anymore.
That's the big mouth inside your head.
Yes. Yeah. I can't believe I just did that. I just gave up like my dream TV show that I always wanted to be on. I watched Rachel Ray as a kid growing up in upstate New York. Like, I watched her rise, and my dad always loved me being on that show because we watched her, but then I said, no, this is what you want to do. And then she announced she was shutting her show down 3 weeks later.
Oh.
Talk about kismet, right?
Wow, perfect
and
timing,
she shut her show down. And I thought to myself, I would have never given myself that gift of making the decision myself.
Well said.
Of saying, I get to make this choice.
It is a gift.
I would have robbed myself of that.
Yes, you would have.
Mm-hmm.
The courage.
The courage that I gave myself of saying, I'm making this choice and giving this up because I want this next thing. We rob ourselves of that if we let other people make that decision for us.
Wow. That's very empowering.
Yeah. And so I was so like, okay, this is what it was meant to do.
Yep.
Now I'm actually starting my own show in Chelsea Studios in a couple months. And I get to do this podcast. And I have an amazing agency. And everything aligned the way that it was supposed to. But we have to make those hard decisions that we don't want to make.
Oh.
And it's so freaking hard.
Yeah.
And even when it comes into like business ownership and like who would give up working with Drew Carey and like living, rooming with him, like people would shake you.
Yeah.
Because that's their dream. And you did it.
Yeah, well, there were people that told me if you would have stayed, because the week after I left and got home to my place in Long Island, Drew Carey did his Carson appearance. Carson only had not even 2 weeks left on his show. Remember when he retired?
Yep.
So he had millions and millions of followers, Carson.
Yeah.
Everyone loved Johnny Carson. I mean, it was record-breaking.
That was the big deal.
Till this day. So Johnny Carson only brought 3 comedians on the panel to sit with him, new comedians, their first time, to sit with him after their performance. There was only 3. Drew Carey was the last one.
Wow.
And when Carey did his set, I remember I was home and I was watching. Carson put his arm around him. They had their heads together, looked at the camera right before commercial and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at a new star." His agency got phone calls. He had an HBO special 2 months later, and he had a sitcom. And a lot of people were telling me, if you would have stayed with him, you probably would have had a part on the sitcom. Did it bother you? Yeah. It bothers you a little bit, but nothing inside me said, well, I made the wrong decision.
Yep.
Never. Especially now where I am. You're doing it too. You're calling your own shots. There's nothing more empowering than that.
There's nothing more empowering.
You're being true to yourself.
Yep.
You can't be true to anyone else.
It's so true. Even when we talk about the book writing process too, and I know this book is different for you than the last ones, right? I still get called by TV shows that remember me from my personal finance days, and I turn them down. Now I get to pass them on to my clients and say, well, you know what? I don't do that anymore, but I have some great personal finance clients. Why don't you take a look at them?
Yeah.
And I can do it that way, but I still, in my gut, sometimes I'm like, oh, that would be fun. Maybe I could just do it once.
Yeah, I get it.
Maybe I could just go and pretend. I could pretend to be a personal finance person again, but I'm like, but that's so not like where I'm at. That is not authentic to like who I am.
Oh, I could feel your energy. I mean, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
This is what I absolutely love it.
This grin, this smile, this inner smile that you have.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah.
And I love talking to people about what gets them to where they are today. So let's talk about this book and the strategy behind this book and where you are now. Because this one, you talk a couple times about this like outer voice, right? And this one's written kind of like that, like a God voice talking to you, which I think is really unique.
Well, yeah.
It's called Conversations with Bob.
Yeah.
I'll hold it up.
Yeah, Conversations with Bob.
Talk to me a little bit about why you chose this strategy, I guess.
I didn't choose it.
Okay. Did it choose you?
Yeah.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
This is the reason I was put on this planet my whole life. My mission until I leave this planet is to get the very simple yet profound message in this book. And it took me 7 years to write. And I started writing it at the very lowest point in my life. And I already told you what I went through of being voted least likely to succeed and then sabotaging my comedy career because I was afraid to audition in front of the industry people because they resembled authority to me. And they had the power to say, you're not good enough.
Right.
Okay. I thought I had everything under control. And then after 34 years of marriage, I decided I wanted a divorce. And that just tore me because my wife's the greatest person in the world. The greatest. When you write out those lists, the pros and cons, there was no negatives.
Yeah.
But I knew, again, if I would have stayed, I would have stifled my authentic self.
Yep.
I know it. I would have been too comfortable where I was. It's hard to explain. And I went through a long time of guilt and frustration. And when I told her, the look on her face was devastating, and I was still living there. When I told her, eventually I'm going to believe it. One morning I woke up. I don't even know where it came from. I said, I'm moving to California. I couldn't even believe I said it. And she said, what is wrong with you? Please, I'll go with you. We'll see someone. Let's talk. I'm not even asking you to stay. I'm just asking you need help. And I thought I did too.
Right.
I called some friends up. I said, you need to find me a place. And they got me a place in Marina Del Rey. I had to face my demons. I had to find out why I was doing this. And that's when the book came about. I was there for like 3 months. I lived in Marina Del Rey for 2 years. the condominium area there. I was walking on the beach about 4:30 in the morning, which is not a safe thing to do.
Yes.
Especially
Been
Venice
there.
Beach around there. And I lost it. I was cursing at God. Cursing. And I finally let it out. I sat in the sand. I was like a 2-year-old. And I got up and I'm wiping the tears away. I take a step and I said, what the hell is wrong with me? And what the hell am I doing here? And I took another step and I heard, you know why you're here? And you know what's wrong. You're just too caught up in your own drama to find the answer. And I went, what? And I took another step and I asked another question and another answer came. And another one, I got in my car as fast as I could, got to my apartment, took out my laptop, and I'm asking another question. Another answer's coming. I was there for hours, many, many, many hours. I was exhausted. I fell asleep for about 10 to 11 hours. I woke up, I opened up my laptop, and I looked at what I wrote, and I didn't remember writing hardly anything.
Wow.
And I continued. And then before long, I realized I was talking to God. That's who was giving me the answers. As time went on, my sense of humor kicked in. My ability to be vulnerable hit. And my really God-given gift is I can tell a really good story. And it all came to play. Conversations with Bob. Bob is God. And how he gets the name, you're going to have to read the book, people. You're going to have to read. It's
Little
funny.
teaser.
It's a timeless, that's the subtitle, timeless, entertaining dialogue for living an extraordinary life. It's a dialogue between two characters, Bob and Bernie.
Right.
Bernie is me, too.
But that's the
other side. We all have an inner Bob. You have so one true. And an inner Bernie. It's your choice, and that's what the book reminds you. Which one are you going to listen to in your life?
I can really resonate a little bit with, or actually a lot of it with what you were talking about with how you were labeled, growing up in high school. And I've talked to my mom about this many times. She's like, I'm so sorry I made you feel that way. But I remember being like, the social butterfly. Like, she's not that smart, but she's super fun. She's the life of the party. So I always grew up thinking like I'm not really that smart. I always thought I was a solid C student. I didn't really care about school. I was there to have friends and I only cared about the things that I cared about, right? Like a typical entrepreneur. I would say I'm very passionate about the things that I'm very passionate about. The other stuff, I'll take it or leave it. I like it, don't like it. You know what I mean? I didn't think that I was smart, to be honest, until I built $1 million personal finance company. Still didn't think I was smart. I went through a divorce. After that divorce, it took me 7 years.
We have a lot in common.
Yeah, 7 years of therapy to get to where I am today. But even after that divorce, I was still so down on myself of thinking, I'm on national television all the time. I built this huge company, and I still thought I was stupid.
Because you were told that, even if your mom didn't mean
she didn't mean it.
But I bet you other people, relatives, said the same thing.
Yeah,
she's funny, she's this. But, and your teachers, not real. That's why when I speak to teachers and I tell parents, you got to be careful what you say.
It's so true.
Because there's a certain age where it's so impressionable.
Yeah, I was always the pretty sister who got all the boyfriends. You know what I mean? That was, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just play the part.
Yeah.
And I'm just not smart.
Yep.
But now I'm like, you know what? I'm freaking smart.
Because you're aware of it now.
I'm a badass.
Yeah.
I'm a single mom of 4. I'm a freaking badass. And I'm good about that. But that stuff, that's the Bruce. That Bruce language that sticks in our head.
The Bernie language.
Bernie, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Bruce, Bernie. It's
the same thing.
No. But Bernie, we have these things in our head that keep us back as entrepreneurs, as business people, as speakers.
Yep.
If we don't address that, we'll always be down.
Exactly. And Bob tells Bernie in the book, there's a point where they meet and he realizes that Bob is God. And Bernie breaks down and said, you never answered my prayers.
Ooh.
Do you know what it's like to have talent and fail over and over again, to see your friends have everything they want? It's a long thing. I mean, he's wailing. He's telling God off. And he goes, you never answered my prayers. Never. And Bob just sits back and he's real calm. And he said, I know you prayed, Bernie, and I always give the seed possibility. but you pray with the same negative attitude that you have about everything in your life, and yet you expect a miracle. So Bernie goes, well, isn't that your job, to create miracles? So then Bob goes, and this is the clincher, you ever hear the saying, God helps those who help themselves? And Bernie said, I heard it my whole life. He goes, apparently you don't know what it means. It means you have to meet me halfway. I can only do for you for what you're willing to do for yourself. There were times when you prayed and you had that belief going, and 3 days later, when the prayer didn't manifest, you went right into the negative zone again. And you had no idea that you were pulling yourself back. It's the law of attraction, Bernie. You just went back 10 further steps by demanding that it's supposed to happen when you think it's supposed to happen.
Right.
And that's what the whole book is about. He teaches Bernie how to shift his mindset and shift his way of thinking to turn lack into abundance, unhappiness to fulfillment, and by using what Bob calls common sense success strategies and shifting habits. Each chapter is labeled accordingly, and it's so simple. And you get it because you went through it.
Yep.
And every
it's
chapter
so
is a different lesson. You know,
I love that. So when you're speaking now, how are you looping this into the speaking?
That's a good question. Wish I had an answer. No. I let people know, because I just created the presentation now called the Bob Factor.
Okay.
How to go from woe is me to wow is me. You know, how to shift your mindset from failure to success, from unhappiness to fulfillment, and lack to abundance. And it's all using these common sense success strategies. So I have programs. Sometimes people want leadership. So I use these strategies to show people what it takes to be a true leader.
Okay.
If they're going through intense change, I have a program, the Bob Factors Embrace Change. If they want plain motivation or a mindset adjustment, these strategies, that's the beauty of this, because they fit every single group.
Right.
I have an education group. I have one for healthcare, because everyone experiences the same stuff. They just have different stories to tell.
Right.
So that's how it's done.
That's awesome. And then, so are you selling this from the stage, or are you having
Sometimes
book
they
sales?
pre-purchase.
That's what I was going to ask. So a lot of speakers are, you can work it into the buy of the speaking engagement. You can sell 200, 500 copies to the event.
Yes, I do that. And sometimes in the back of the room, I do it. And there's a lot of other Bob stuff coming out. I have a podcast that I'm doing now called Hey, I'm Talking Here.
I love it.
With the real New York gang. Hey,
now, does Bob do it?
Well, Bob, it's brought to you by Conversations with Bob. Yeah. And, I was a little apprehensive at first because, when people find out that Bob is God, we're so politically correct today.
Right.
And I have gotten over that.
Right.
I am who I am. And if you don't want to book me because of that,
right.
good for you.
Right.
But there are people eating this up right now. It's so simple. It's simple. They're called common sense success strategies because they're innate. We're born with these strategies. It's just that we get so caught up in the crap of life. We don't know that we could take time out to laugh. We don't know that we need to wake up every day and go through the day with an attitude of gratitude.
Yep.
We don't know that we can make a conscious choice to enjoy ourselves during the process. You know what the beauty is with what I do? And I know I'm not boasting. So after every strategy, I give a story to back it up. And every one of those stories are from a famous person that I knew very well or know still. Some of them are sad stories. My Rodney Dangerfield story.
Yeah.
It's don't put your happiness on hold, because I know him I headlined his comedy club every single weekend in 86 and 87. That's when he was at the pinnacle of his career.
Right.
Back to School was rated a 9 or a 10. Caddyshack, you couldn't get any more popular.
Right.
And I have a story about this is what will happen to you. And when I talk to corporate America, you could hear a pin drop. Because you look at him as the ultimate success story. No.
Yeah.
He was one of the most unhappiest people in my life because he was bitter. Because he kept saying, I should have made it 40 years ago when I was younger, when I could have enjoyed myself. He wasn't aware that he put his happiness on hold. He didn't know that his subconscious was running. It runs everybody's 97% of your life. And whatever you program into it, your subconscious is the genie of your soul. So if you're saying, I won't be happy until your subconscious, the genie of your soul, is saying, okay, you won't. Your wish is my command. And that's all he kept focusing on. And even though he achieved way more than he possibly could, 3 HBO specials, he's responsible for creating the careers of all the young comedians, 2 hit movies. He was voted the #1 comedian in the country for 5 years in a row, on The Tonight Show every other week. And he kept focusing on, because he put his happiness on hold. He couldn't enjoy the journey. So when I speak to people, I'm saying it's not the goal. That's not what's important. It's the journey. It's the destination, because that's where your life unfolds. That's where you're sending a message to yourself and the entire universe that you're willing and able to meet with any challenge head on. Look what you did.
Yep.
You know, and the fact that you left before her show was, was gone.
Yep.
That's empowerment.
Yep.
It's the journey. And I know you know it too, because look at the steps. Isn't that what you're grateful for?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for that.
When I became a member of the Speakers Hall of Fame, which is a very prestigious award.
There's only a couple of hundred
since 1977.
Yep.
I'm going up to get the award, and it's big. There's thousands of people in the audience. My wife was there, my agent's there, my brother Michael, but yeah, that was a trip to have everyone stand in your name and everything like that. But the thing that brought tears to my eyes that night is when I was in my hotel room. It was the courage I had to quit stand-up.
To get you to that point,
to get me to that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
The steps. And every now and then my brain would look, and Chris Rock is in another movie. Eddie Murphy's kicking ass here. And that doubt would sometimes hurt. But I kept forging forward. It's the journey. And that's one of the biggest lessons I give to corporate America.
Yep.
Don't put it on hold, especially people who are leaders. They have so much pressure, leadership. They're responsible for everyone. And then they got to go home and deal with their home life. So they create a mindset that, I'll be happy when I get this done. When this person gets this and that person does that and everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, then I can relax and enjoy myself.
No.
Because if you say, I won't be happy until, there will always be something that's going to keep you from enjoying yourself.
Right.
Always.
There always will be something. And in my career now, dealing with a lot of authors, as we kind of wrap up this interview, is that a lot of people want that title of New York Times bestseller. They want this title of USA Today or Wall Street Journal bestseller, yes. Right? And there's this comparison trap. They want all of these titles, right? And they're seeing all of their friends go on to do all of these amazing things. And I love the phrase that, when you're watering your own grass, you can't tell what other people's grass is doing, if their grass is brown or greener or taller or whatever, because you are only paying attention to what's going on in your lane, right? Yep. And for all of us to focus on what is happening with us, and for you to be so successful in your speaking career and through your books, and the strategy that you did with that says volumes for that you made the right decision.
Oh, yeah.
And your internal happiness.
Yeah. And if you're not careful, that stuff will stay with you. And the key is to become aware that you're doing it to yourself. Because awareness, as Bob says to Bernie, awareness is the key that'll set you free. Every time you know you're slipping into that negative zone and you're focusing on other people having what you think you deserve, you're going back to peg one again. And that's when you can nip it in the bud and immediately shift your focus and your way of thinking to what's working, rather than fixating what isn't working. Bless the things that life has given you, rather than cursing what life is currently throwing at you or not giving you.
Yep.
And it's all based on choices.
It's so true. You're so inspiring. I mean, I can see why the companies that bring you in.
You are great at what you do. I know it sounds like we're complimenting each other. I feel very comfortable. And thank you for allowing me to tell my story.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. I think it's very powerful because, me and you have both stepped away from really great things. You've stepped away from a really amazing career where you've seen all the people that opened for you go on to do and be these incredible people.
Mega star.
But you are also incredible. You know what I mean? Like, you are doing the thing that fills you up. And I think a lot of times we discount that. When I quit TV, the main reason was so I could stay at home with my kids after divorce. So I could be there for them and not be traveling.
Wow.
To me, that was incredible.
You made your own blueprint for success.
That was incredible to me. That was an incredible choice.
Yeah.
It might not look incredible in the checkbook because I gave up money and fame.
Me too.
It might not have looked incredible to the entrepreneurs that were following me that I just disappeared. But you know what? To me, it was an incredible choice. And to you, it was an incredible choice. And that's really what matters. So I think if people can listen to that, we all get the choice to make the journey what it needs to be. I can't wait to read through it.
Chapter 4 is called The Choices You Make.
Yeah, it's so true. And to really take the opportunities and even the stuff that you've done and the incredible things that you've done have elevated what you're doing now to probably a little bit quicker to get to where you are now. So it was all for the right reason.
This is another cool thing about this interview. We have a lot in common.
Yeah.
We had the same fears, just different stories to tell, the same empowerment. And you know what? The viewers, I know they'll get that. And that's why you do what you do. Because we're the spark that can ignite possibly some kind of change in someone's life.
Yeah, I hope so.
You tell your story and there's always someone going,
yeah, I've been through that too.
I can do this too.
Yeah. And I think that's why books are so amazing is they can change people's lives.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why I love what I can do in the PR business is I can help authors use their stories and elevate them to change other people's lives and create stories behind that. And I think that to me is like a gift.
I can give you a hug right now.
It's a gift. It really is a gift. And it's not just about a media hit because I get to say you've done this. No, we can talk about that we've gotten to change people's lives. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, you're amazing.
Well,
I feel honored to have been doing this show. Thank you so much for being here today.
I appreciate you. And
so where can people find you? And where can people book you? Like, you know, people watching that are corporate.
I'm right here right now. So you
He's taken right now.
You could go, you could go on my website, steverizzo.com, where you can also purchase the book. You can also go on Bob's website, which is yourinnerbob.com. You go to Amazon. All that stuff is on my website, on the yourinnerbob.com website. Just go to Amazon, and all I ask, you can help get the word out. Just give a review on Amazon. It's getting great reviews right now. Oh,
that's awesome. Well, I can't wait to read it and give it a review.
It's an easy read. So
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.